Welcome to the Surf Strong Show, conversations for a healthy community. I'm your host, Greg Finch. I'd like to remind you to like, comment, subscribe to this and all of our episodes of the Surf Strong Show wherever you get your podcasts. For all show notes and links that we talk about in the episodes, videos of the podcast, you can go to surfstrongfit.com/podcast for this and all the past episodes. Thanks for joining us. It really means a lot.
On this episode of the Surf Strong Show, I sit down with pioneering big wave surfer Bianca Valenti. At 40, she's surfing the best of her life. We dive into mindset, preparation, recovery, talk about her being in the Aikau Invitational last year. She's going again this year, and what it really takes to surf strong for decades. Let's get to this episode with Bianca Valenti. Being that you're based kind of in San Francisco when you're in California, are you concentrating on, Mavericks when that's breaking? Do you then travel when you get the windows to do that? How do you kind of like to go about your season?
Yeah, typically I usually focus on Mavericks and Hawaii. Especially recently, I really love warm water. But I always loved California. I'm from California, and I went to UC Santa Barbara, and so I love the Central Coast, North Coast, Southern California, but yeah, I love putting in time in Hawaii and just feeling the power and the culture and being surrounded by the world's best surfers over there. And so I also spend as much possible time as I can in Hawaii. I haven't been to Portugal in a minute, but I do also love going over there and surfing those waves. And I love that culture over there too. So
when you're concentrating in your season and in your big wave season, talk about being surrounded by the best surfers in some of the most extreme conditions too, being surrounded by that talent and that level and kind of pushing each other.
I think it's really nice actually whenever I get to be surrounded with my big wave brothers and sisters, because there is a level of dedication and sacrifice and commitment and focus, and perseverance and resilience amongst that community that just feels refreshing to be around, because it's rare. It's a rare breed of people, and it's also inspiring to see what people have been doing in the off season. And you never know, it could be some young kid who's showing up next level, or it could be a seasoned veteran who is like having the best season of their life, and it's just fun to participate in it and be amongst it and keep showing up.
Yeah. For those that don't surf those waves, aren't in that world, from the outside looking in, what's interesting to me is looking at the physicality it takes, obviously the training, the experience and years and knowledge, and this growing, this being an ongoing thing. Talk a little bit from the inside of that first person, what you see around some of the people that in that community. What is the differentiation between I don't want to just say a normal surfer, but a surfer that serves their challenging waves and a big wave surfer that is really putting themselves on the line in this position?
I think the big wave surfers are really just really a culture of possibility and exploring what's possible, what am I capable of, and being really, really lit up by seeing crazy waves and just the idea of trying new things. And then not only that, but also putting their money where their mouth is and really embodying and living the life that it takes to continue to push yourself and to see if you can surf a wave that's never been surfed before, or if you can up level your own personal wave. And I think for me, where it all started is just like that same feeling of I started surfing when I was 7 years old. And I remember the very first wave I caught. And before I even caught the wave, just paddling out and being scared and excited and nervous and curious and wondering, like, can I do this? Is this possible? And I'm talking about like a 6-inch wave at Doheny Beach in Dana Point. And then finally just being like, all right, I'm going for it. And and turning around and catching the wave and standing up and, turning right and left and right again and just being like, oh my gosh, I did it. And that was the best feeling in the world. And I was terrified, but I made the choice to do it. Just see, for me, it's been a lifetime of seeking out that same feeling over and over again. And to get that same feeling, it just always takes a little different conditions or new conditions. And so that's what I love about surfing so much, is that every single day and every single wave is a completely new experience.
Yeah. Isn't that such a universal experience for a surfer? Again, whether it's that 7-year-old girl in Doheny that was getting that wave, or a person that, like, I've coached before that's 52 and just learning to surf and really going through that same level just outside of your comfort zone, that handling that fear and your body's response to that and your brain's response to that, and working within that, and then bringing back that experience and training and focus. And there's an analogy in there for life, right? It's like just outside of your comfort zone, expanding yourself, not just taking on risk not prepared, but coming to the table with the training and preparation, and then challenging yourself outside your comfort zone. So your world just doesn't get smaller and smaller and smaller. Do you feel that as something still being, like you said, fresh, chasing that new thing? And when the waves aren't big, how do you keep that in your life when it's not accessible to you there? How do you change that and do it in different ways?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually recently had this conversation with my niece, who's a painter, and she was like, oh, I'm just depressed because I don't have access to my studio. I haven't had access to my studio all summer. And so I haven't been able to paint. And I was like, you know what? Here's the thing, is that I feel you, because I am the most excited and feel the most alive when I get to surf really big waves, but I don't get to decide when that is. Nature does. And so in the meantime, all the days and the small waves, or the challenging days, the windy days, or the days, just the imperfect days, those days all do provide value as well. They help you build on your foundation, and they help you stay ready for when the good days do come. And that, I always tell my students too that, like, when you surf a day that's really way outside of your comfort zone, even just paddling out and not catching a wave, that day prepares you for the next slightly easier day. And you're just like, okay, this is a breeze. So I think it's really about getting out there, getting the reps in, staying fit, staying ready, continuing to move. And then, I'll just mix up my training routines to keep myself entertained and to keep it diverse. And so right now I've got access to a great pool. So I've been doing a lot of like underwater weight training and just pushing my comfort level a little bit further and a little bit further with what I'm doing underwater with these weights.
And living within that, this is what, like, so much of it is the practice of and the reinforcement of that level of uncomfortableness. The physicality of it, absolutely. Your body needs to be able to handle what you're asking it to handle, but your mind is the one that almost loses the reps faster, right? Being in that place and being in that uncomfortableness, learning to be calm in that setting. It's something we never stop learning and relearning.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and also I feel like if I go and I challenge myself physically just a little bit every single day, and it just makes everything else that comes my way throughout the day easier to face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like doing what I do, and similar, like, I have computer work I have to do, unfortunately. I can't just be outside all the time.
Yeah.
And my wife will come home from work and she'll be like, you didn't leave the house today. Like, it's almost instantly, like, it's just radiating off me, because I'm exactly the same. I need to be outside. I need to empty that gas tank, because if you don't do that, everything else just is all tense and bound up. And you're right. It's also circles back to that same idea, is your mind is always looking for a way to tell you to conserve your calories and reduce your risk, right? This is like at its most basic, that's evolution, is just stay on the couch and conserve your calories and don't risk anything. And so it's always giving you these reasons why not to do this. Oh, it's a little windy. Oh, it's a little these thing that we love, besides our family and our friends and the people that we love in our life, nothing's more important than surfing to us. Yet we just talk ourselves out of it so much. How is that possible? But it is. And you're right. It's like paddle out. Just go paddle out.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I've noticed that in big waves too. People are always looking for a reason why not to go. And so I'm the opposite. I'm always like, you know what, this is part of my practice. And so I will always paddle out pretty much every single day, 9 times out of 10, 9.9 probably, and just catch 3 waves. And I pretty much always feel better once I come in. And so it's just my religion, my way of connecting with higher powers, and my way of just connecting with the ocean and grounding myself, my mental health. It's it's my church. And so it's so much more than just getting out there and catching a wave. It's just a part of it's a really keystone of my well-being.
Yeah.
So that's also something that's a habit that I always encourage people who are learning or anywhere along their journey, is like, just go surfing, like, who cares what the conditions are? Get out there, catch a few waves, or maybe don't catch any paddle around. It doesn't have to be an hour. It doesn't have to be 2 hours, but like, do a heat, 15 minutes, even just go stare at the ocean. That could be surfing too.
Yeah.
But connect with nature, and then everything else will be better.
Yeah. It just puts you in that place. You're continuing to say to yourself on a daily basis, yes. You're continuing to reinforce yes. And so those conditions, we've said this, I've said this on the show plenty of times, but it's like you paddle out in what like doesn't look very good and is kind of blown out and what you kind of think is crappy, and you get a great little nugget wave. It almost always happens. And even if you don't, like, I always challenge my students or just other people I'm talking to, when was the last time you paddled out and regretted it? It's very, very, very rare. I can't think of the last time. So you're right. But you have to remind yourself of that, because we know these things. We're professionals at this, teaching other people these things. And you still have to always remind yourself, just go do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about kind of along those lines, is showing up every day to your mind and your body and your preparation for those higher end days when it is firing and those big waves are there. Talk about, we definitely want to hear, myself as a coaching geek, I want to hear the nuts and bolts of the things, but also just how you keep showing up. With each day, week, month, year, it doesn't get easier. It doesn't mean it's impossible by any means, but what is your routine like to keep showing up every day for yourself and your surfing?
Yeah, I would say in some ways it does get easier because the habits are so deeply ingrained that you just don't even think about it.
Yeah, great point.
And so for me at this point, I'm 40 years old and I'm surfing the best that I have in my life, which is really cool and inspiring. And I've been inspired by seeing people like Pete Mel get barreled out at Mavericks, when he was 50, and surfing with Ross Clark Jones in the Eddy, who's in his 60s, and he's in it again. And so I think that what changes is how you pace yourself and how you stay ready. And so what I do know is that, like, the aches and pains of aging are definitely real, and that you do have to prime and prepare your body every single day. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but you do need to make time for it. And so for me, it's all about waking up, and I start off with, hydration and some warm salt water is what I like, Celtic salt and warm water before I hit my coffee. I definitely am a coffee first thing in the morning because I'm always waking up early, and it's just I'm in the coffee culture. And then usually while I'm making my coffee and my warm water with salt, I'll grab my massage gun and just start hitting the bottoms of my feet. And I'll get 1 minute on the bottom of each foot, just because that's where I feel like the chain starts, where you're connected to the ground. And the thing is that it feels good, and it's just an easy way for me to just like wake my nervous system up.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of blanket my whole body and like hit my shins and my calves. And then I spend at least a minute on each IT band, because the IT band to me is one of the tightest places on surfers. So the outside of the leg, it's vascular, but it's not a muscle. And so I find that massage gun really just works well to get me vibrating, get me awake. And then I'll hit my arms, my chest and everything. And then I'll usually do a little foam rolling and some band work just to activate all my paddle muscles, my glutes. And that's like a 5 to 10 minute routine on the regular day. On a big day where I know that, hey, this is serious, the waves are going to be 25 feet plus, I'm getting up an hour early, and I'm spending half an hour to an hour preparing my body.
Yeah. Yeah. And are you using your massage gun on your IT band directly before you do some foam rolling?
Definitely. Like some of my aches and pains, I mean, I've had shoulder injuries, knee injuries, broken ribs, all the things, feet, everything. And so I find that these help me manage my chronic issues.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit different for everybody, but I think finding the things that work. And sometimes I'll mix it up, but like I've got my foam roller right here. And like this foam roller is like one that I can't live without. And that's like what I use at the end of the day to really get in between the tissues and soften them up and to release. And I can't live without the resistance bands. And if I don't have a resistance band with me for whatever reason, it breaks or something like that, because they do, I'll use a dog leash or a towel and just hit all the isometric ranges that we use in our paddle muscles. And then I've had chronic hip pain. I don't have it right now, but I think that just that repetitive use of being a regular footed surfer for 33 years and a right-footed person and skateboarding and surfing and snowboarding, and that's the leg that your leash is pulling on, that it is super common for surfers to get hip pain in their back leg. And, we're standing in this position that's like not a perfect squat, but you're loading that back foot way more than the front. And so like just learning the tools that work for you and the exercises that work for you and making a habit of it have made all the difference in the world to help me stay feeling good, stay pain-free, and to not go into that spiral of that chronic pain. And also getting into the water every day. Like what I've really learned too is how important it is to manage stress and to not get to that yellow and red zone or those ultra high cortisol levels, because those do manifest physically as well. So I don't mess around with it.
That tension too. They're going to those places where you're already inherently a little tight, and that tension, you're adding that stress level to it. And it's like you're saying, like checking in, you're preparing your body, but you're also checking in, like, ooh, okay, that's a 7 or 8 or a 9 today, where normally I need to really kind of pay attention to that. And then the other piece you're saying, which is so crucial, is recovery. Recovery just gets kind of pushed to the side because we're preparing. Okay, great, I'm preparing for this. I have this great session, and then like, oh, I'm done now. Like, no,
you're tired. Yeah.
Now you're circling it back. You're completing the circle here.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, recovery, like, you're tired, you eat, and you hydrate, but all of these things said, it's like if you just take a little bit of time each day, you make a little bit of time each day, it's amazing how much of a difference it makes.
Yeah, absolutely. That consistency is so. I mean, that people, my students and clients are just like consistency, because they just hear me saying it over and over again. But it's so true, because it just brings you back. Everything is kind of predicated on that idea of just being there without overwhelming yourself. you're just consistently checking in. You're consistently doing the things that you need to do. It helps bridge so many things of distraction and falling out of favor of something. And you're just building those bases consistently. And you can then peak to, again, to your elevation, to outside your comfort zone. It all bases back onto that consistency. That's great.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And if something's flaring, like, let's say it's a big day and I get cleaned up by a huge set or like, 20 waves or something crazy and my leg gets pulled on, hard, 20 times by 20 foot waves, and my knee pretty much immediately will have a little bit of that pain, and then I'll ramp up my IT band massage gun, and I'll do 5 minutes a day throughout the day, or I'll just sit with it while I'm doing my computer work and be hitting the band. And it's amazing how it works. Like, it really does work as long as you create a routine and implement the routine and stay consistent. Totally.
And having those reminders throughout the day, that's just something I've really been emphasizing for myself, as well as, everybody that I work with, is yes, you need some time that you're focused and carving out some time that you're just totally present in the things that you're doing physically and mentally, breath, mobility, whatever you're working on, you have to be present. But also that reminder to change your shape. And again, going back to the computer, we're so locked into something, and time is so elastic. So I've really circled back around and reemphasized, okay, I'm setting that 25-minute timer, doing work, and it will blow you away. Like, that was 25 minutes already? Oh my gosh. But then you get up, you move, your body's made to move,
Yes.
move, do 10 push-ups. And
Yeah.
again, we do this professionally, and it still will astound you sometimes when you set some of these things in there to help you come back to that consistency. Over the last 3 weeks, I've been doing that. Like, I'm hitting, 150 push-ups in a day on some days. No
Wow.
problem. Because you're just like, oh, I'm just doing 10. I got more work. Oh, I'm just doing 10. Like, if you said, okay, I got to sit down here and do 150 push-ups right now, it feels overwhelming,
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
No, it's not every day. I got
Okay.
total transparency, But you hit that, you're surprised
I
what
hear
you
you.
can achieve and balance on those. Again, goes back to the consistency. In some
Yeah.
of that preparing for the season coming up, are there some practices or routines that you've developed over the last few years or so? Like you mentioned, you're 40 and you're surfing better than you ever have. Have you developed some techniques or things that you're doing now that actually really surprised you how beneficial they were?
Yeah, I think just learning to pace myself and not go full throttle all the time. If I'm at the gym, when I'm at the gym, I used to be like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the gym, and then Tuesday and Thursday heavy lifter. And I used to just think that like going harder all the time would get me ready for those moments. And then I realized that actually, like, really listening and tuning into my body when I'm at the gym, I don't need to be pounding harder or lifting heavier all the time. If I'm not feeling it, like, that's okay. And especially if I know there's a swell coming, I very intentionally taper my workouts. But I also will just, like, if let's say I didn't sleep great the night before, because we all have those nights, you're not going to sleep, even if you've got the perfect sleep hygiene. We're living busy lives. I think it's unrealistic to think you're going to sleep well every single night. Things happen. The dog may bark or, whatever. Kids may need something. So like, let's say I didn't sleep well, but I like to work out with my crew at 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. Then I'll just go and I'll do less reps, lighter weights, or I'll do, stay heavy, but I'll do less reps, less sets. And I think just like taking the ego out of it and really feeling into like, what do I really need into this moment, and just being proud of myself for showing up.
Yeah.
But getting rid of this thought of like that I have to push hard or even get competitive with other people at the gym. It's like, no, like, if I'm doing my best and I'm having fun, then to me, that's winning.
And we'll be right back.
What would it mean to your surfing if your pop-up felt powerful and quick again? If you could paddle out with endurance and confidence? instead of feeling like you're lagging behind. Imagine reclaiming the strength, speed, and energy you need to stay in the water, doing what you love most. I know how frustrating it can be when your body doesn't move the way it used to, when every session feels harder, and you're wondering how much longer you'll be able to keep surfing the way you want to. That's where I come in. With my Surf Strong for Life program, you'll have an expert coach in your corner, someone to create a personalized strength and fitness plan designed specifically for your needs as a surfer. A professional who's here to answer your questions, guide you around obstacles, and help you overcome the struggles holding you back. This isn't just about fitness, it's about helping you reclaim your confidence and reignite your passion to surf strong for life. Your journey starts here. Apply to my coaching concierge service today at surfstrongfit.com/start, and let's get you back to feeling unstoppable in the water. That's surfstrongfit.com/start.
Now back to the show.
Yeah. And what you're saying, that tuning in to where you are right now is a parallel and almost a synonym for that idea again of recovery. Like, what do I need right now?
Yeah.
I don't need more. Sometimes I need less to allow my mind and my body to get back to where I need it to be, to then push again. And that, being really tuned into that, is such a critical part. And it really goes to, I know it's important to you, and definitely where I'm going more and more with all my coaching is this idea of longevity in surfing, for sure, but just in life. Like, what are the balances of these things that we need in life to be present, to be at our highest level for surfing and activity, presence for family? It is a balance of all those things. And talk about that a little bit, about in your life. Balance and longevity aren't the first things that jump out to somebody when they hear, I'm a big wave surfer and I'm surfing all of these intense situations. But they don't have to be disconnected, right? That you're preparing for that. Just talk a little bit about that idea and what might feel like a little bit of a contradiction.
Yeah. And I would definitely say I hear what you're saying. And I would say there was definitely a period of time where I was seeking, and I kind of, I was always like looking for the next big swell. And, especially at first, when I first started surfing Mavericks, and I was super, I was ready. I had done all the breath work, all the training, had all the gear. And I'd get out there, and my mindset, I would really struggle to feel like I belonged in the lineup out there, be out there surfing with all these legends, and just, pretty quickly realize like nobody's going to just like offer you up a wave out here and say, oh, hey, it's your turn, even though eventually actually that did happen. And so what would happen would be that I would sometimes not catch a wave. And then I would be so down on myself afterwards because I wouldn't know when the next opportunity was going to come. And it would be just absolutely devastating. And so I had to come up with these techniques to really to feel like I belonged out there. And one of them was tapping into like a dissociation technique and learning how to feel like I was a killer bee out there. And I was like, all right, I'm not out here to talk. Because that was also the other part, is like, I'm a chatty person. I'm an outgoing person. I like to be friendly to people. But when I would get out there, I'd be like, all right, I'm the killer bee. I'm here to focus. Don't mess with me because I could kill you. I'm not going to, but just so you know, I could if I want to. But like, I'm out here to focus and to get the waves. And it worked. And then, even after a period of time, it was like, okay, then these aren't the issues anymore, right? The issues then turned to like burning out, and am I being irresponsible? Like, am I escaping or avoiding my responsibilities, my life responsibilities? Like, I have work and or something scheduled with my family. I'd be like, hey, I can't do it because the waves are good. And so there was definitely a period of time where I would sacrifice anything and everything just to make sure I was out in the water for every single second of every single swell. And that I eventually burnt out. And especially when we were fighting for equal pay, and that was like incredibly emotionally, mentally, physically exhausting, and spiritually exhausting. And I lost my stoke. I was just burnt out. I would still go out there and catch great waves and be just going through the motions. And so the longevity component came in when I was like, I realized how much more powerful it is when you're doing it for the love, and when you do create balance around the rest of your life and you set things up in a way that you are still being responsible and you're not obfuscating responsibilities or completely sacrificing everything. And what was really crazy was, after coming back from that burnout, I realized like that having your stoke and feeling like that gratitude when you're out in the water and that magic in each and every session, like that does make you surf way better.
Yeah.
So yeah, then I started focusing on like, okay, like, yeah, like just what we were talking about, like always checking into myself. What do I really need in this moment? And like, forecasts are still forecasts. And like, just like this last week, actually, there was like a lot of hype around what looked like it might be the first big swell of the year. And I'm down here in Mexico and I'm like, oh gosh, do I need to go home? And I had this plan to be here. And then I was like, whatever, like I'm here. The first swell's always overhyped. And sure enough, it fizzled out. And like, there was like one way. And, but there was definitely a few minutes where I had that FOMO, and I was like, what am I doing to myself right now? Like, I'm here right now, and I know this is just the start of the season. And so, I think it's also remembering like to live in the moment and to enjoy the moment. And, but those really, really special days, I still will make sure like, the days that are 25-foot Hawaiian plus, those are rare days, no matter where you are. And those are the ones where I will over deliver in all of the other aspects of my life so that I can have those days fully to myself and those moments, because those days are still super special and rare.
And that's that idea. It's context, right? Those super special moments. And then it's also that same idea of being present, period. When you are sacrificing everything all the time to always be able to do that, it's difficult to actually be present there, because there's part of you where it's like, well, I didn't do that, and I'm not doing this, and I'm not doing, so you're kind of pulled back over there. But again, goes back to that idea of balance. If you are showing up and being present for family and work and the things that you're doing, when you do get those really special days, then you can be there 100% and know I've invested in all of this and I'm supported to do this, both first person and for those people that are in my life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And
hard though.
And
that's
also,
not easy.
No, it's also just like, and also I think letting go of the ego, and when you're doing it for the love and you've prepared for those moments, that you don't, there's not this pressure that you put on yourself. Like, it's okay if you don't catch a wave in a session. You're like, you know what? I wasn't feeling it today, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Or whatever, or it got windy, whatever it is. But just, I think it's a long game. And so that's where the longevity comes in. And that's actually what I love about big wave surfing, is that your experience really does matter, because mindset is everything in big waves. And with age comes so much wisdom. And so, I'm really enjoying the process of being a mature surfer, and excited to continue to ride with people like Pete Mel and Twiggy and Ross Clark Jones, and these people who still are lit up in those moments, and still doing it for the love and the culture. And I wouldn't change it for everything, and I'm going to do it as long as I possibly can.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Eddie Aikau experience. Being part of it last year, going to be a part of it again this year.
Yeah.
Just talk for those that for all of us mere mortals that will not be a part of that. Talk about that process. Talk about the intensity of it. Talk about the passion and the emotion for it. It's an understatement to say it's an iconic event, but just talk about being part of that and what that means to you first person, and maybe then extend it to how you're preparing for that, knowing that it could be any moment. That's one of the things that for some people that don't understand is it's an open window, and it's when the numbers hit, and then the call goes out. So you really don't know when this is going to happen. So you're having to prepare for it to happen at any moment. Talk a little bit about that.
Right. Well, to me, it's to be, even to be invited is just the biggest honor, because Eddie Aikau and what he did is creating the Hawaiian Water Patrol and rescuing, over 500 people single-handedly on the North Shore, and how he was in service of others, and just somebody who really explored the realm of possibility within himself and pushed others to do the same. To be invited into an event that's in his honor is like the greatest honor in the world for me. And so every single year, as when you're invited, there's an incredible ceremony that's basically like a celebration of Eddie's life. It's a traditional Hawaiian ceremony. So this year it's December 5th, and we all go over there, and the Ali'i, the Royal Hawaiian Kingdom, the Ali'i who are still alive, come and they do a traditional Hawaiian prayer, and it's a very spiritual and very beautiful opening to the season. And the Hokulea ship sails by, which is the celestial navigation boat that the ancient Polynesian voyagers used to explore, and that is the ship that he went to try to rescue. They lost all contact. They were doing a recreation of one of the sails, and the boat lost all communications with land. And so he said, don't worry, I'll just paddle back to the island. And he was lost at sea. And so that's where the saying Eddie would go came from. So last year, before the event, I was watching, I'm always monitoring the swells and forecast very closely. It's definitely also part of my daily routines throughout the day. Yeah. And I just had a feeling I was watching this storm develop, and it was big and it looked consistent. And that's usually what you want to see when you're looking at the models, is you want to see like a big, dark, purple, black blob that stays consistent or grows and stays, on the same path. And so when you keep watching and you see that consistency, it's legit. And I had this feeling that I was like, you know what, this is gonna happen. And it was just before Christmas. And so, always finding a place to stay on the North Shore is not always the easiest thing to do. But if you go there year after year after year, you have your friends who you call. And so I called my friends, was like, hey, can I come to Christmas with you guys? And me and my dog, I'm going to bring my dog. And they're like, yeah. I was like, I think the Eddie's going to run. They were like, what? And they're, yeah. So go over there, and then, just start to, I prefer to have at least 3 to 5 days anywhere to kind of ground and get settled. That just works best for me. Some people can go right on the day of, on the fly. I'm more of like like to get settled and have a little more time to dial in my sleep, go get my groceries, my healthy food, snacks, all that. And so, I got there a little bit early, maybe like a week early, and then Greg Long needed a place to stay. So he was like, hey, can I come stay with you? So he was my roomie, and that was really fun because he's just also somebody who's one of my best friends and such a legend. It's always more fun to have like a ride or die in those moments. The night before, so they call it, it's on, it's green. And so we are allowed to take our stuff from the house and leave it down at the parking lot. So the issue is that Waimea Bay is a tiny bay, but on the day of the eddy, it is like a national holiday that doesn't get celebrated every single year. So 80,000 people show up to the
Converge.
bay, and there's no parking, there's no concessions, there's no nothing. So you have to really plan and prepare and make sure your gear is down there, because if you think you're going to just drive up on the day of the event, you might miss your heat, and like, who wants to do that, right? So Greg and I go in the evening, and we take his car down, and we leave his car parked with all of our gear, and then we walk back. We were able to walk to the house that we were staying at, our friend's house, and that was really one of the most amazing moments, where I was just looking at all these people from all over the islands, and people who have flown in just to watch the event. They camp out on the side of the road overnight, and they set up couches and cooking and TV screens. And like, it is the ultimate tailgate situation that you've ever seen. Like I said, if you want to go to the bathroom, there's a bathroom, but if you want water, food, anything, you have to come prepared, and it's like at a moment's notice. And so I was just like, walking, like, this is crazy. Like, I wonder what I would do if I was going to come just to be a spectator. And in my mind, I was like, well, I'd catch the bus on the day of, but so I didn't have to sleep on the side of the road. People set up tents on the side of the road. They sleep in their cars. So anyways, go back to the house, eat a healthy dinner, go to bed early, wake up in the morning in the dark. And every big wave, I never expected Greg to do this, because he is like the ultimate forecaster, but he looks at me. We wake up in the morning and it's in the dark, and he looks at me and he's like, do you think there's going to be any waves? And I was like, what do you mean? Is there going to be any waves? It's the eddy. Like, we know it's going to be massive and it's going to be epic. And like, what? You of all people. And, this every single time, it's a big wave surfer thing where they're like, oh, it's flat, and you're like, no, it's not going to be flat.
It's just breaking the tension a little bit. It's just setting expectations a little bit.
Yeah. So then we walk down, all our stuff's already down there, and we start walking from the house in the dark, and it's like super busy, like busy bees all over the place, and there's people selling coffee on the side of the road and muffins. And usually in Hawaii, it's really calm and quiet in the morning. I've always noticed, like, Hawaii is like to sleep in, and it's kind of like a sleep in culture over there, but not on the day of the eddy. It's like buzzing, just this energy, this electricity. And then you come down the side into the bay, and there were, Rip Curl was selling selling t-shirts, and there's hundreds of people lined up, and the whole bay is already filled with people, and it's not even light out. And the swell was slow to show up, so they delayed the start. But then it was on, like, right around 8:30, the first set start rolling through, and they're like, all right, first heat's going out 8:50. Greg's in that heat. And so, like, we were kind of helping each other out, with gear and everything. It's what you do, is we're all one big family. But I mean, it was amazing. It was definitely the most amazing day of my life, in a surf contest of my life by far, because it's just this crowd of people. The waves alone are insane. The Hawaiian Water Patrol is killing it. They're just nonstop all day, rescuing us, taking us out, and people like. And so finally we go out in my heat, and just when you can go out at any time in the heat before your heat, you can go out into the water. So you can be out in the water for as long as you want before your heat, as long as it's during, the heat before yours.
Yeah.
So we get out there, and I was with Mark Healy, Ian Walsh, Annie Starr, Ross Clark Jones, Mason Ho, and I think Mark Healy is just like screaming. We're watching people send it because from the shoulder, and they're like, yeah, like, it's just, like, let's go. And and I was like, okay, let's do this, And so immediately the horn starts, and it's our heat. And I think, Healy or Ian Walsh, and just go sit super deep and take off on these crazy waves that don't look makeable. And unfortunately, Mark pretty much like ate it and burst his eardrum right away. Went over the. I mean, some really heavy wipeouts go down in like the first 5 minutes, and then Mason Ho was kind of like trying to give Annie and I some tips, and I was kind of watching Ross Clark Jones and Mason Ho, because Mason Ho had this strategy where he was like, oh, if you sit a little outside and wide, you have a better chance of making it, but the wave looks just as big, but then you make it. And so it's like, really, you got to kind of go zen and really, again, tune into yourself and make the decisions not to be, you don't want to be pulled into somewhere where you don't want to be, or take off on a wave where you're not totally centered on going. And so, I was kind of like waiting for my turn, which you will get a turn because there's just so many waves coming through. And then I was like, all right, I had to chip into this wave, and it was definitely, I think, one of the bigger waves of the day. I got into it, chipped in, and I dropped down, and I was going like Mach 10, and I get to the bottom of the wave, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this wave's gonna barrel over me right now. It is huge. And I was just like, okay. And I kind of just did like my power stance and just, relaxed and relied on my training, and knowing that like I've done everything I can to prepare for this moment. I do not need to be worried or afraid or scared or panic or anything, just to brace myself because it's going to be a hit. And then sure enough, it was. I got totally exploded. And then, came up, and the water patrol, they're so awesome. They're these huge dudes, and they can like pick me up. I'm pretty small, I'm like 5'5", and they can just pick me up basically with their pinky finger. And they were all giving me props. They were like, yeah, that was sick. Way to send it, And then I was like, okay. And then, everybody in the heat was really just cheering each other on, and just, had that spirit of like, let's go. And it felt just like such good vibes. I mean, really, really intense and at the edge of possibility, but also just like good vibes. And, we were all worried for Mark during our heat too, because all of a sudden someone goes missing, and you're just like, well, where's Mark? But we're like, okay, something happened. Then they tell you, okay, he probably burst his eardrum. And we're like, oh man, that sucks, And so that it just is that reminder in those moments, okay, even though I'm out here and I'm in this contest and there's all these people watching, like always I have to be centered on my decisions and not go on a wave because I'm feeling pressured or because I want to impress the crowd or anything. It's like, I'm here because I want to be here, and I'm taking this wave because I feel good about it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to go for it. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going for it, and I'm going to do my best. Yeah. And then as the heat wound down, I think I caught 2 more waves during that heat, and I made them. They weren't quite as big as that first one. And so that was just an awesome experience. And then the day goes by pretty fast, and it's like a round robin style. So later on in the day, the next heat is, it was pretty crazy by then. Like the waves had gotten much bigger, and there were a ton of closeout sets during the heat. And there was this one crazy set where I saw Ross Clark Jones starting to paddle out, and I was like, oh, I see what he sees. And it's like the horizon went black. So I start paddling, and he barely gets over this one. I barely get over it. Everyone else in our heat gets smoked. So that means like none of the water patrol, they're all busy rescuing everybody. And then Ross spins around and he says, he's like, hey, Bianca, do you think I can catch this wave? Because he's like, I can't turn my neck, so I can't look. And I was like, yeah, I think you got it. And then he took it, and then it was just me out the back, and I'm like, I gotta catch a wave too then. And same kind of thing happened at the very end of that heat. There was another closeout set that I saw coming, and I was like, I would rather spin and go on this wave right now than wait for that black horizon to come hit. And I took the wave. It was a crazy airdrop. I made it, and then I got it. I didn't make it through the explosion. There's always an explosion, and then I got picked up by a water patrol. I did not have to take the set on the head, but overall, like it was just an epic day. Everything about it. if I would have made my waves, I probably honestly would have ended up top 10. Like, I think I got a couple of the better waves, and Liam, the organizer, and everyone was like all the Hawaiians, all the water patrol, everybody giving you props. And you're like, that feels really good because I've prepared all my life for this day. And I really was present and enjoyed it. And so, yeah, I can't wait to see what happens this year, and just going to pace myself and be ready for that moment again when it comes.
Thanks for listening to the Surf Strong Show. Our mission is simple: build a healthier surf community and help you surf strong for life. If today's conversation gave you something valuable, share it with a friend and help spread the movement. For bonus programs, surf-specific training, and ways to connect directly, head to surfstrongfit.com/start. And if you're ready for high-touch, customized coaching, reach out to see if you're a fit for my surf-exclusive program. Until next time, train smart, breathe deep, travel far, and surf strong for life.